Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 2020 AIBPM Talks. I am Dana Yurida on behalf of the AIBPM. I hope everyone is doing great during this difficult time, and it is a great honor for AIBPM to have all of you here. Before we start the webinar, let me give a little information about the AIBPM Talks. It is a program where AIBPM provides a platform for researchers to present their research results virtually. We usually collaborate with researchers to attend international conference in Indonesia. But due to the COVID-19 outbreak, we need to postpone the event and move it online. And today for July 9, our keynote speaker is Professor Dr. Mamun Habib from School of Business, Independent University, Bangladesh. And the moderator for today is Professor Majdi Anwar Quttainah from Kuwait University. Dr. Majdi Anwar is an Associate Professor of Management in the College of Business Administration at Kuwait University. He works on consultation and training projects as a freelancer. His research and teaching interests are corporate governance at 3 levels of strategies, specifically corporate strategy, international management, and business entrepreneurship and small business, and organizational change and development. In addition, as a recognition to the research, he was awarded the Best Young Researcher Academic Year 2016-2017 in Kuwait University. And the panelists for today are Professor Bakar Abdul Hamid from Putra Business School, Malaysia, Dr. Kimberly Scott from Northcentral University, Scottsdale, Arizona, Dr. Sharif Rasel from Flinders University, Australia, Dr. Hughes from Stamford International University, Thailand, Dr. Scott Hipsher from Webster University, Thailand, and Dr. Chan Man Hin If from Technological and Higher Education Institute of Hong Kong. Without any further ado, I would like the moderator to take over the session. Professor Majdi Quttainah, please be my guest. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Again, because I was muted. Yeah, this is Majdi Quttainah. I am the moderator for this webinar. I will be conducting the presentation and discussion session. The webinar will last maximum for 1 hour and 30 minutes. The schedule of today's webinar is keynote speaker presentation will be for 30 minutes, question and answers should be not more than 60 minutes. Before we start presentation, I would like to inform you of the rules of the webinar. All panelists and participants will be muted during the presentation. There will be Q&A session after the keynote speaker finished his presentation. For panelists and participants, please click the raise hand button if you have anything to ask or suggest for the keynote speaker. The moderator has the authority to choose who will deliver the question or suggestion. All panelists and participants, moderator and keynote speaker will get an e-certificate that will be distributed maximum 7 days after the webinar. In case if you do not receive it within the specified time, please contact the email address aibpm.conference@gmail.com. And now let's start the presentation of our keynote speaker, Dr. Mamun Habib. I'll give a short bio about Dr. Mamun Habib. Is a professor at School of Business, Independent University, Bangladesh, IUB. In addition, Dr. Habib is the visiting scientist of University of Texas, Arlington, USA. He has more than 18 years experience in the field of teaching as well as in training, workshops, consultancy, and research. At present, he is supervising some Ph.D. students locally and internationally. His core research areas are supply chain management, production and operation management, operations research methodologies. Finally, Dr. Habib is an active member of different professional organizations, including the IEEE senior member, IEOM president, SCM technical division, IETI senior member and board of director, IRED fellow, GRDS vice president, IEB, IAMS, Info MS, just to name a few. And today, Dr. Mamun Habib will deliver a presentation entitled COVID-19 and Global Supply Chain. The floor is yours, Dr. Mamun.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'm so much delighted to become the part of this webinar, and I could see my few of my good friends for a long time during the COVID-19. And I just recall that what our last year intimacy with Professor Majdi, Rudesh Pandey, Professor Abu Bakar, and then definitely AIBPM. So I'd like to share my screen so that you can see my lecture. Okay, so first of all, we'd like to start in this way. Today, Professor Majid already mentioned my lecture topic on the COVID-19 and global supply chain. So basically, we are going to discuss about the impact of COVID-19 upon the global supply chain. If anybody ask at this moment which part of our sector, manufacturing or service industry, mostly affected during the COVID-19, the answer should be the healthcare industry. The healthcare industry, they are facing lots of supply chain disruption during the COVID-19. So that is the best example of what is impacting all over the world. The same scenario, global supply chain upon the health are also available in the transportation, warehouses, supply of the raw materials, procurement, distribution channel, so on. I think I remember that I use these functions and activities and then facilities when I discuss the basic supply chain. So today it's also our thinking to understand disruptions are available in the transportation side. What type of disruption? What type of disruption in the warehousing? What type of disruption in the raw materials? What type of disruption in the procurement distribution channel? We have to discuss. Would you please turn off your microphone, please? Thank you. So you understand that disruption is everywhere. So if you're starting this, so that means you have to understand the scenario, global scenario. Even the basic something like the rural farm level, you understand, very raw material supply, rural farm level, are not getting the fair price of their production. So that means the problem is not only that your demand side, problem is the supply side, problem is the factory side, shipment, transportation, distribution, everywhere. That is our COVID-19 impact. This is the one example. What I said that I give you the one example. This is the best on our country. This is Chittagong port. We call it Chattogram port in Bangladesh, the largest port in our country. And this is the one scenario. You can see this one that basically you know that in supply chain, when you design the supply chain, it's based on the 4 pillars like planning, sourcing, making, and delivery. So this is the based on the month of April and May, 2020 during the COVID-19 time. So planning is good, no problem, because planning the decision maker, they can take the lots of decision. But question is that sourcing, making, delivery. You understand, making, we need the human resource, we need the factory open. How we manage social distancing. Sourcing, we need the suppliers. But the question of the suppliers, how many suppliers you have? Delivery, you need the transportation, distribution channel. Again, you need the human resource for the delivery. So planning is okay. I do not want to say excellence is good, but sourcing, making, and delivery, so bad. And if you ask me now, I mentioned this example the month of April and May. If you ask me now July, I use the sourcing, making, delivery also worst. And the planning also collapsed, is bad. So situation day by day that deteriorated. That is our discussion in the global supply chain. You know that if you look very carefully, that the demand for sugar, lentil, edible oil, flour, grams goes up 20 to 30% increase during the April and month. That time it was our Ramadan time. I think the Muslim people, they understood Ramadan, April and May. And the demand for the trucks rise at 20% during this time. Demand was very high at that time. But Chittagong ports, you understand, look very careful, ports, storage capacity. The storage capacity, you see that 49,019 20 feet equivalent unit. But that time, they have the products is available, the 49,468. If you compare this one, you understand that what is the situation is there. 11 vessels and jetties were waiting for the offloading of goods. And another 30 containers vessels at outer anchorage for berthing. So look, this is the situation. I just give one example so they can understand. So it means that activities of the Chittagong port in Bangladesh have become to a standstill as the amount of import containers exceeded the port storage capacity due to the slow delivery of products during the shutdown time. So our question is that if the situation is like that, how we can go to the next stage?
Sorry to interrupt. We have 4 minutes left.
Only 4 minutes? Dr.
Yes, sir.
Majdi, can you allow me another few minutes so that I can finish?
How long do you need? Another 10 minutes?
10 minutes is okay. Okay, minutes, inshallah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, my good friend, can you manage it? Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, sorry. I understood the situation. You know, this very interesting thing is that if you look very carefully this way, the scenario is that then how we can come up with our ultimate target, the customer, reach to the customer. I just give the two examples. Another two examples. General Manager of Citigroup is one of the two largest commodity conglomerates in Bangladesh. Said they are facing the disruption in three areas: port, production, factory, and transportation. Look very carefully. This is the problem everywhere they're facing. The port problem, so that production, factory, and transportation. On the other hand, the large business conglomerates in our country, the Magna Group, Industry, Citigroup, Abul Khair Group, Akis Group, Bosundara Group, they're facing the disruption in their supply chain amid the shutdown. And now come to the question is that how the resilience in supply chain, flexibility in supply chain. So this is the new consensus that more resilience, more flexibility in supply chain will be needed in the wake of this extreme uncertainty. I think that out here, there are lots of supply chain experts. They have to think, they have to decide, they have to discuss about these issues. This is the something that for some, this involves the building up the stockpiles and buffer inventories to provide more give in the system. But buffering is the one solution, but problem is that warehousing comes at greater cost. The cost is high. If the warehousing cost is very high, that is the what just-in-time deliveries aim to the resolve. So there is something. So you can see there is a sequential problem is coming. So what I mentioned that it's now time to the time we have to think about the resilience, means flexibility in the supply chain. And now it's the time we have to think that how we can ensure the just-in-time. If you look very carefully, suppose the small business have the enough cash in reserve to keep them solvent for 27 days. There's some data I don't want to talk too much, but unfortunately, it is not possible for the large industry. The companies such as the Unilever have already agreed to pay the supplier earlier. Unilever decided to like to pay supplier earlier, but do you think that all kind of companies they have the situation like the Unilever for financial growth? So that is something. Financing arrangement will need to adapt to give the smaller supplier better access to working capital. And that's why different country, even the developing country, even if you look very carefully, our country, Bangladesh, India, the government, they're doing some the financing to the small business people because there is no other option without the financing. That is a very important slide, but I couldn't discuss in details. I just show the main key points so that you can understand. If you look very carefully, these manufacturing companies buffer the two ways: the global supply chain disruption and internal operational regional disruption. So once we have to talk in the global supply chain internally, what is happening, internal operational regional disruption, and the outside the global supply chain disruption. And if you look very carefully here, you can see this one. Say this is the raw material supplier and entire suppliers, and there is other something, distribution, retailer, and other something. But look very carefully. Critical raw materials with limited global availability, critical raw materials with limited global availability are affected, leading to long period of capacity storage. You see, long period of capacity storage. And if you go back to the next, suppose here, supplier components or modules suffers from undetected broken supply chain or entire level. Because the entire level, there's lots of supply, but we don't know why is it broken. And you like to find out this one. This is another time consuming, and we cannot ensure the just-in-time delivery. Look very carefully. Suppose the outside, even the plants, the outside of affected areas are impacted by shortage of few crucial parts. and have the completely shut down. So that means all of the complicated. If you look very carefully, the manufacturing during the COVID-19 impact, this is the happening that we could have maintained this supply chain properly, disruption of supply chain. So let's go to this one. This is some things we have to face supply chain in several ways. We can in the demand for some companies, but some of the companies skyrocketing demand with selected companies. If you look carefully, Microsoft demand is very high. Cisco, they're doing a very good business at this moment. Any kind of IT, they're doing a very good business. Getting uncertainty of in raw materials, impacting the ability to receive the products on time due to the shortage and logistic bottlenecks. I think you understand the bottleneck problem is again coming here due to this COVID-19 time. Workforce capacity. So we need this workforce capacity to assemble and ship the products. So we are facing this problem as well. Okay, so I like to give some suggestion so that I don't want to talk too much. This is one best example of that from the Apple and other from the Samsung. So regarding these issues that how they're handling. Now you know that Apple they're planning that they have to move to from China they like to move to the India, Vietnam, and Mexico. You see the business scenario is going to change. So everything is going to be changed. Samsung, this is the same problem they're facing. They're planning that they like to move to from the South Korea to the other places as well. So that the lots of options will be there. If the one option is the call of the another option or the other 2 or 3 options will be open. Okay, so first of all, there is some consideration, short-term action consideration. So now how we can cope up with this one? Scenarios. Try to understand the scenario. What kind of scenario? Financial scenario. Operational impact. So we have to try to understand this one, understand the financial and operational impact across the multiple scenarios. Look very carefully. So this example I mentioned earlier, the Walmart and Tesco. Check this on supply and demand balance. Focus on balancing supply and demand. And what I mentioned last 2 slides before, the building the buffer stock. But again, if you stock the buffer, then the question of the inventory cost will be high. Why is the cost to be high? That is another how we can balance it. We use the term the balance trade-off. Supply and financial health. Evaluate the financial health of your key suppliers. Look very carefully. Those are your suppliers, their financial health. To assess the potential impact to your supply chain. It's a very important thing. You have to check supply financial health. We are talking about this on scenario, financial scenario, operational impact, supply demand balance, supply financial health. We have to check very carefully when you come to the decision. If you look very carefully, that mid to long-term consideration, what is that? First of all, you have to check the micro supply chains. Look very carefully. This is the slide is very important for discussion for the panelists. I think they will add more values after this my discussion. Build agility and speed into your supply chain by creating micro supply chains, finite, decentralized, agile, mini operating models with a flexible supplier contracts. Look very carefully. Flexible supplier contract and relationship with manufacturing closer to the point of purchase. So now we have to plan. Manufacturing should be closer to the point of purchase, close to the supplier. Explore strategies to buy where you make and make where you sell. Look, micro supply chain. Buy where you make and make where you sell. Secondly, the supply diversification. Assess opportunities to diversify the supply base. You look, diversified supplier. Identify the geographically diverse suppliers to onboard in the event of emergency. Geographically diverse suppliers. Consideration should be given to the dual sourcing of critical components. If you know this is a critical components, there is a question of the shortage. You have to depend on the dual sourcing rather than one source. Finally, the supply chain strategize. Move away from an adversarial short-term approach toward a long-term strategy of driving value. Look, driving value, you have to add the values. Short-term approach toward a long-term strategy. Periodical test, revise your strategy. Again, you should not depend on the one strategy at this moment. Every time you have to revise. What I said that the month of February, the businessmen, what they were thinking, month of March, April changing, and now they understood it will not be finished now. It will take another few months. So periodical test, revise your strategy to account for organizational growth and environmental change. So it is very important discussion for the mid to long-term consideration. So I think I do not want to spend more time. I like to take this. Can I take another 2 to 3 minutes, Professor Majdi? 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
He doesn't want to say yes. Thank you so much. Okay, so you know that this is very interesting thing is that if you look very carefully, now we have to go to the lean manufacturing principles. That how we can do this one rather than better than the widespread of our strategy. And then what I mentioned earlier, this is very important that we have to think the modern supply chain, how we can manage this one. When the Chinese factory closed, manufacturers struggled to pivot due to the lack of flexibility in their supply base. You know that most of the supplies come in from the China. So likely consequence is that global firms will diversify their supply chain in the future instead of relying only on China. So the time is that we have to think about these issues, how we can manage it. Maybe the Vietnam, Mexico, or India, that will be the next stage. Or you have to think the multi suppliers. So what I mentioned here, this trend, which the likes of automation, go to the automation, small batch production, which had become so cheap that a number of countries started moving portions of the supply chain back home. Look very carefully here. The transition to a new model for supply chains will be underpinned by rapid wholesale digitization. Again, we are using this one. We have to go to the digitization rather than physical information sharing or the paperwork that accompanies global trade. So that is the very important thing is that we have to now think about this on how we can go for automation, how we can go for the small batch production, how we can go to the digitization. Let's see this last slide. First of all, what you mentioned earlier that we are working on that for a long time about this one. Despite the rapid advances in technology, the relationship between buyers and suppliers remains predominantly paper-based. So digitizing the buyer-supplier relationship is a fundamental element for building robust supply chain, and will make the identified and recruiting new suppliers far less time-consuming. So go back to the few suppliers, choose the one this time, next this one. Do not wait for the one supplier. Do not wait for the China for a long time. You have to move to this one. How you can do this one? With technologicals like artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things. Supply chain could quickly switch to alternative provider when regular suppliers fear the disruption. Well, this time we are facing this problem. So we have to go to the automation, artificial intelligence, IoT application in the supply chain. The current crisis, the COVID-19 in the pandemic time, is an opportunity to reset a system that has relied on outdated processes. So what we are using for a long time, global supply chain phenomena, now it's the time we have to revise it. Creating the smart, agile supply chain is the key to building a global trade and investment network that's capable of weathering the future storms. So we assume that the future storm is coming. So now this is the time you have to think how to design smarter, agile supply chain so that we can survive in the world based on our supply chain. So that is something that reshaping the future. I would like to give this floor to our moderator, Professor Majdi, and the panelists. They will discuss. So if you have any question, you can send me email. So I'd like to reply. So before finishing, I'd like to give a special thanks to the AIBPM, especially my friend Dr. Liam for his this kind of innovation to add this webinar in his platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mamun, for such an interesting talk. And now I will give the chance for the panelists. If any of you have a question regarding the topic, please click the raise hand button. Wow.
Ajoy Singh.
Ajoy Singh, please go ahead.
Dr. Ajoy Singh, are you there?
Can you unmute yourself? No.
Okay, fine. Can you hear me?
Who is that?
Can you hear? Abu Bakar. I'm here, Abu Bakar, Dr. Abu Bakar.
Yeah,
Yes,
please.
From PBS, Putra Business School.
yeah. Please, friend.
Okay, fine. Thank you so much. What a good presentation from Manum. Yeah, it was a very good insight. Yeah, into it. Yes, we are so much into the COVID 19, and as I would say, on the on Malaysian part that we have through my observation is that among others that the effect of the supply chain is that the you know what happened is that beside stockpile by the customer, these suppliers, they are telling to the customer that you take this good, we pay for it, you know. Not the customer is going to pay for to the supplier, but the supplier said, you take my food, you take my stuff, I will pay it for you. To that point of critical, yeah, to that point. And so I hope that Mamun could look into it, yeah. There are many instances, those especially the oil and gas, you know, they are stuck that with their vessel stuck in the ocean, where there is no customer to accept it because they are full. Yeah, they are full. So in such a way, nonetheless, is that we can see, though it is a very small industry, a growing up industry, we can see that food delivery, yeah, that is growing. You know, probably we can somewhere in the future that people will make full use of taking food or taking finished good online basis and taking what you call it, taking Grab food or whatever it is, you know, it's online and delivery is done by this particular small industry. It can be small industry, but it might be growing later on, because if you look at the future, as mentioned, that it's going to be a digitalized supply chain, and we are smart, you know. So this is where I think we and the supply chain wanted to go further into that. Yeah. Okay, that is my comment only. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Abu Bakar. I really enjoyed your comments. And this is a time for as a supply chain professional, we have to think how we could do some work on that. How we can ensure that digitalization everywhere in the supply chain. We can call it smart supply chain. Professor Joy, are you there?
I don't think he's there. Now,
okay.
Let's go to
Professor Sharif Rasel. Yeah. Sharif Rasel.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Actually, I enjoyed how you explained like every little part of supply chain management. So I have two questions, one from a very macro perspective, and the second question is from a very micro perspective. So from a macro perspective, you have discussed the possibility of reshoring, nearshoring, like bringing operations back to the home market. So we discussed these issues. I just wanted to know, can you please give us like a policy perspective, how countries like India, Indonesia, Vietnam can attract foreign direct investment because of this relocation of business. So this is my one question, from a very macro perspective. And my second question is from a micro perspective. Like you suggest that companies should co-locate production with their like the market. So like bringing operations back to the market or nearshoring, just something like this. But it takes time, like bringing operations from one country or from one place to another place. So do you have any short-term suggestions how companies can actually address this pandemic situation, like the disruption of the supply chain? So any short-term suggestion for the companies, and the macro perspective is the suggestions for the governments, how they can attract foreign direct investments.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let us start by this one. As a government policy, you are talking about this one, and as we have you said I'm the supply chain field. They have to start to the marketing. They have to start to the sharing their views that how they can attract that prospective businesses to come to their country. I just give the one example that you know that in Bangladesh garments industry, they opened their garments industry a few months before. The main reason is that they do not want to lose the marketplace for the garments industry. As our competitor is the Vietnam, our competitor is that the other country, China. Those are working for the garments industry. We don't want to give the space for them. Like for India, I think you know that India now there's Apple. They are planning for moving to the India. The other industries, even Samsung, they have also planned to move to India. And Asian, you know, the South Asian, India is a hub usually. So that is an opportunity for Indian. But Indian government, they should take some advantage of this one. So they have to go for the like details work on that marketing strategies and how they will do this, attract the upcoming the business. And I believe that present government of India, they are also facing another issues with China at this moment. So there is another pressure, because one is that COVID-19 pressure and that pressure. So they have to think that the macro level, that how they will do this. So I believe not only government, even there's some giant business like the Tata and those others working on that. They're also doing something that how they are going to get the attraction from the like international level. But I just remind one thing is that as Sharif was asking this one, due to this pandemic, due to the COVID-19, world global phenomenon will be changed. And there is a lots of disruption, ups and downs. The USA, how they are treating all over the world, it will not be happening anymore. It's changing. And that is one thing is that those have a plan to go to take this place. This is a chance they have to start to work from now. Implementation will be start after 5 to 6 months, but they have to work on the strategy and the policy for this one. Your second question, you said that we are relocation very close to the like supplier, and we have to decide. Is it difficult? Is it difficult? But if what you said that we can do this one fragmentation, small level. We cannot move. Yeah, we can do this on fragmentation, small level. You have to start. It is very difficult to change the location and relocation, but we have to start the small level, small batch of production. We have to do this way. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And you know, like if I may, I'd like to add a point. Like Apple wanted to relocate its production bases in Brazil a few years ago, and unfortunately, didn't work. So,
this
like
time it will be changed. This time you just look and see. Everything is going to be changed. Everything will be changed.
Thank
Next
you,
one,
Professor
please.
Mamun.
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure. Scott Hipsher, right?
Yes. Hello. Yeah, please.
Unmute myself quickly. I enjoyed the presentation. Very interesting. Comment, questions? You know, we're in a new situation around the world. It's what might be called a wicked problem. Every day we get new information. Every day we get new predictions. I don't think anyone really knows what the future is going to bring. Someone's going to be right, prediction, get it right by luck, not because they actually know. We just don't have enough information today. And the world's constantly changing, and obviously. But one thing that seems to become clear is that this virus is spread through human contact, not through goods. So for supply chain management, the shipping of goods and stuff is, you know, we may not be as affected. It was at first, obviously, when, you know, places were shut down, so nobody was working. But over the long run, we may not see it. Although we may see a lot of more on the demand end, if you will, because obviously people's, whether it's going to be long-term or short-term, you know, who knows? I see different predictions. I see predictions, you know, next year everything's going to be back to normal. I see predictions that we'll never go back to normal. But anyways, it seems like because on the supply or in the demand end, you know, people, tourism and things like that. So there may be a shift. Do you see opportunities as well as problems here for supply chains and companies? That people will not be doing, you know, spending their money on international travel, which is obviously a big deal here in Thailand, where I'm from. But we might see a lot more people spending more money for home appliances because, you know, everyone's kind of locked down, buying stuff at home. So, what is the main issue going to be location, or is it going to be on the demand side?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Scott. And, you know, I just add the one thing with the Dr. Scott that there is no prediction from the human side at this moment, and we don't know what is the destination. Very interesting thing, and even if you look very carefully, the WHO, World Health Organization, they are also taking lots of research on that which medicine will be better and something. They say that there is it comes to the human contact. They also time I remember they also share this information. Not only WHO, there's some research organization they mentioned. It is also possible that there is a food contact. It will feed the freezing for a long time and something like that. Though this is not the like ultimate findings come up. So what I said that still is the all information is vulnerable. Not only vulnerable, I would say that the more of the confusion information. So what the Dr. Scott said that home we are preferring the is better than the home appliance rather than relocation. Yes, that is some things we have to think. And I would say that what you said, I like to add this one. This is the one problem challenge, but this is the opportunity to rethink how we can reshape the whole supply chain. And maybe easily, you know, that we are working on the forward integration. Now, let us start to think the backward integration. How we can cope up with this scenario, this environment, that even without changing the relocation, if possible, who goes to the like home delivery, home appliance services, and we can apply that artificial intelligence, we can apply the automation process, that at least we can cope up with this environment. So thank you so much, Dr. Scott. It's a really highly appreciable thinking that we are also thinking about this every aspect. Thank you. Go to the next, please.
Hello, Dr. Habib.
Who is that?
This is Kimberly Scott. How are you?
I'm fine.
Awesome. Salaam alaikum.
Yes, yes. Walaikum assalam.
Alhamdulillah. I have a comment to make.
Can you mention from where you are now?
Yes, I'm actually located in Florida, United States, Florida.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. So first of all, I really enjoyed the presentation, the information that you shared. Very enlightening, and I think this is definitely a conversation that we need to have around the world, believe it or not.
Thank you.
I want to bring to your attention, you know, when we look at these pandemics that has happened in the past, let's just say. We had in 1918 the Spanish flu where it killed millions of people. And something that you started off with saying, which field or which industry was the most affected or impacted. And you had mentioned the medical field, the healthcare field, which is absolutely true. I don't think that in my entire life, I would have thought that we would be fighting or running out of gloves to take care of our patients, believe it or not. And this is not an issue just in the United States that we're encountering here. This is actually happening across the world. So, you know, with that being said, this is not our first pandemic. When we think about how we are going to address the issue with the, you know, the global supply chain, do you believe this is something that we should have been talking about, discussing a very long time ago versus, hey, now, you know, we have COVID-19 here, something that has definitely disrupted life in general, but now is the time seriously to start looking at the supply with something new.
Thank you. Thank you for joining from Florida. That we are so happy to see you. You know, before going to start this one, I just start the one discussion. Like, if you look very carefully, that evolutionary timeline of supply chain management, the history of supply chain management. Supply chain management started their journey by the name of the logistic management, and it is around the 1950s, and then officially supply chain term is recognized around the 1980s. And if you know that any kind of theory, any kind of new concept coming from the United States of America, and then it's moved to the developed country, like the Europe, and then Asian developed country like Singapore, Japan, and then it moved to our South Asia region like the India. India is the hub for the South Asian region. Then India spread out this one to the like other neighboring country. So if you compare this one, basically when you think about the all kind of activities of supply chain were available on the last 200, 300, 400 years before, but the format of the supply chain started very newly around the 1980s to onward. And if you think the Asian country, we said the 2002 onward. So still there are lots of research going on. And what you said that this pandemic is not the new for us. But what I said that the global supply chain or this kind of thinking of the supply chain is a new for us. So now we are thinking this way, what we are thinking now, how we can integrate the whole supply chain. But earlier it was a separated thinking, separated way to design their model or something. Now, as we are now in the family, the supply chain supplied to the customer, and now we are thinking, why not we can design the global supply chain if we have this kind of pandemic next time, or after this one, how we can recover this one, how we can design this one. But I surely agree with you, if we design this kind of thinking earlier, supply chain disruption, and how we can cope up, how we can handle this one, is there any kind of practice, best practice, that would be very easier to resolve these issues. I believe this is a time, we should not go back to the backward, we should go to the forward. This is a time for us, we have to let us think, let us make our own platform. I always request those are the supply chain related people. So let's make a group, the different countries, so they can understand the different country policy. And let's make something, the best practices, global supply chain, how we can cope up this kind of pandemic in near future. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, thank you.
My pleasure. Let's work together.
Okay.
Next.
Kate.
Kate.
Hello.
Kate.
Hello.
Kate.
This is
Kate.
Eve. Can you hear me? This is Eve.
Yes,
Eve.
Kate. Yes.
Someone else.
Yes, Kate.
Okay. Hi.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It's very timely to have it at this, in this present context. I'd like to leverage off some of the things that Kimberly said, in that the question she asked about, could people have been thinking about more resilience and more flexibility before now? And I think the drive to have supply chains efficient and effective and drive down costs has meant that a lot of companies have ignored any of the issues of addressing redundancy, addressing information flows, addressing how do we design our supply chain in case this perfect environment doesn't work. My research area is in humanitarian supply chains and disaster management, which is more, thank you, which is more an event management. But what we're trying to look at in this context is, how do we drive these processes of change management, change thinking, multiple redundancy, driving agility and flexibility into a situation where people may not see the need to worry about it until something like COVID-19 happens. So there's often companies will ignore the risk until it's happened, and then they'll be hypersensitive to that risk in the future. So how do you see that us being able to get the message through to companies that there is a need to change over to more resilience, more flexibility, fragmentation of the supply chain, micro-manufacturing, or as Sharif said, moving it closer to, the purchasing locations?
Thank you. Kate, may I know from where you are now?
Okay, I'm based in Bangkok in Thailand, and I'm at Stanford International University, which is
Stanford
in Bangkok.
International University. Okay,
Yes.
that's fine. That's fine. Once a time I was in Thailand, so thank you. Kapun Khao.
You mentioned it in your presentation, yes.
Yeah. Kate, you know that I like to start in this way, that what you just now you mentioned, that it's very important that to change management.
Yeah, very much.
Change adaptation. And you know that once a time in our subcontinent culture, Asian culture, we do not like the online lecture. We don't want to accept the online, any kind of lecture. Now the reality is that we have to go to the online. Again, come to the question, how we can adopt change management. I would say to my students, especially when I deliver the lecture, so let us read the change management concept first, how we can adopt this one. I'd like to start from that one, as you are working in the humanitarian logistics. So as I'm also, I have some few paper on that on humanitarian logistics as well. So you know that people they are not accepting this kind of scenario earlier. So now is the time we have to redesign our supply chain, like flexibility, resilience, fragmentation. This kind of concept, if we started earlier, the level of acceptance was not very high. So now there's a time we have to take this opportunity. As we are doing we are academician, and as we have also connectivity with the practitioners. So I like to request, why not we have to start in this way? We have to appeal something so that the company, organization, they have to redesign their supply chain disruption. If this kind of a situation is arise in future, how they'll cope up. Though they are not regular practicing that one, but if there any emergency is coming, like the pandemic time, how we can do this one. This resilience, this fragmentation is a basic concept of supply chain. But they don't want to apply in the regular time. At least they have to apply this one in the special case. So we can do this, what I said earlier. Let's do the one thing that we can do the combinedly, the best practices we can design. Maybe some of the organization and company, they will accept. But I believe that after this situation, even the policy maker of the organization or the top management, they have to think how they have to cope up, they survive during this pandemic time, next time. So that is our time, best time. I would say that if everybody think that this is very critical time, you always say that this is an opportunity for us. Let us work on that, how we can solve it, how we can survive, how they can maintain the global supply chain phenomena available. Even the any kind of disruption is there. So I believe that that is something, what you said, fragmentation, fragility, and then flexibility, how we have to cope up with this one. And maybe we can do some of the case studies as well. As you know that every concept will come from the academics, so this is the time we have to think, we have to do more research on that, and we have to do some appeal to the different organization and companies so that how they can cope up with this. Thank you.
Yeah, and present it as opportunities of value rather than this is what you should do.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you
so much. My pleasure. Next one, please.
Okay. This is
More question?
from Hong Kong. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes. Who is that?
I'm Dr. Ip Chen from Hong Kong. Yeah.
Okay, Ip Chen. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for your interesting presentation, and it's impressive to share relocation because of this situation. So actually, in my research area is about textile and clothing industry. So actually, my research area is based on the relocation of manufacturing. That means exactly what you suggest in your PowerPoint. That is quite impressive because as you presented that, how we will develop in the future, our manufacturing plant will be moved from China to Vietnam, Mexico, or India. That I totally agree with you. But one thing I would like to ask is, how can we give the the value added part, or how we can transform innovation and future development from China to this country?
Thank you so much. Ip Chen, I like to start in this way. If you ask me that dependency on China, say that our South Asian countries, you couldn't imagine any product, even at 10%, at least depend on the China. So if you go to the garments industry, go to the leather industry, go to the textile industry, go everywhere. And even that like household items, even that any kind of mechanical and electrical instrument, totally depends on China. So we notice that what happened when we are facing this problem, China is the lockdown, so there is a business collapsed. So I believe that this is the time to do think about this one. But question is that the China, their business policy like innovation and creativity, and the Chinese, how they manage the business. The China is the one in the world, they never say no to any customer. They know how they follow the responsive supply chain. They know how they follow the efficient supply chain. They know how to handle that high quality product. They know how to handle the low quality product with the minimum, or they're compromising the cost. So that is a different. So now come to the question when their relocation, from China to other places, how they will handle this one. I believe that definitely some of the way should be come out, and definitely we should patronize. It is not, this is not the like that our thinking, our ideology against the China, our ideology, it's not like that. This ideology is that how we can survive, because
Yeah.
we notice that the what kind of facing the problem in our businessmen, even our small businessmen in our country, like South Asian country, they're facing this problem. So think positively, and I believe that not only this is the responsibility of the like any country, it's the responsibility of global platform. Let us start. At least we have to need a few suppliers. Okay, China is the first priority. If we could not get the support from the China, is there any circumstances next time, then how we can manage it? Go to the next level, next supplier, the third one, third sourcing. So that is the way we have to design. And maybe it could be the combined platform. Maybe it will be the multi-sourcing, so that at least you have to get some privilege. And not only that, I suggest that there maybe again, you know, that due to the pandemic time, after the pandemic time, I'm thinking that China, hopefully there is a possibility they have to lead the whole global economy. If you compare with the US condition is a very poor condition at this moment. If you compare with the others, even the UK also, they face lots of problems. European countries, they're going to down. So China, there is a possibility to lead the whole economy. If they lead the whole economy, then they can take this privilege as well. I believe the Chinese businessmen, they're also thinking in this way. They will do the business maybe, but different country. They will take the initiative to set up this business in the different country. So that will be the what we call it, the joint venture, like India and China, maybe the India and in the Vietnam, maybe the China and Bangladesh. China and Bangladesh, we are doing something, and this time China also extend their help in hand with us. So that is something we have to the joint venture. I think you know that as you are expert on that, on relocation of manufacturing, how we can do this one. It is not possible to totally change the system. Go to the gradually, move to the slowly, to the like China leading to the like the different country, and this is the way to gradually improve the other sourcing and suppliers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Go to the next, please. Dr. Majdi, how many questions you can take more?
I think
One
more question.
Okay. The last question.
Any more questions?
I believe there is a lots of question. Anybody
Well,
from Bangladesh? Anybody from Bangladesh, please? You can ask any question. Or anybody from India? Or anybody from USA? I'm calling by the country. Anybody from the Europe? Rupesh Singha, right? Do you want to ask the question?
Yes, I'm from India.
Rupesh Singha, can you increase your volume, please? We cannot hear you.
Yeah. Are you able to hear me now?
Better. Can you increase your volume, please?
Okay, fine. So in India, like what change we have seen that there are so much increase in online delivery of the basically materials. Earlier, people used to go for shopping and they used to buy the things, but nowadays, a lot of dependencies happened on Amazon, Flipkart, etc. So want to know, like globally, what is the trend? In India, people, they don't want to go out and they don't want to buy the things themselves. Instead, totally shift has happened towards online shopping. So that
Thank
is
you.
a great disruptions I'm seeing in India. So globally, what is the trend in this?
Okay, thank you. I will reply your query in this way. What you are noticing now, that is not only just India, it's a global phenomena. What I say, the Walmart and Tesco, after this pandemic, they recruited lots of human resource just for home delivery service. And even it was not the permanent, it's a temporary basis, a part-time basis. So you understand the global phenomena, what is happening in the USA and the UK and other countries. And I would say that is the disruption, supply chain disruption. Why not we can design another supply chain? That how we can do the home delivery. So that will be another supply chain. So they will submit the order in the Amazon, Flipkart, and other way. and then we have to, there is process that we have, there is human resource, they have to handle this one, they have to go to the home, delivery. Even there is a, even in our country, I noticed that there is a like a, on spot payment system. No need online payment, spot payment. You see the mood of payment also changing. Earlier, nobody do this on spot payment. They to depend on the like online payment because there is some risk as well. But now they are taking the risk. So let us think that this kind of supply chain disruption, how we can adapt the new supply chain, and what I mentioned earlier, change management. Adopt this one, taking this the challenge is an opportunity will be there. So we have to work on that, and I believe that is the way to survive the business. Don't need to go to the like customer there. Maybe it's on the earlier supply chain what we designed. Now we have to think that during this time, pandemic time, how have to handle this one. So let us start to think. Thank you so much. Dr. Ajoy Singh, you raised the hand, so I think you already finished. So you're the last one, please. Dr. Ajoy Singh,
sir,
please.
Sir, very nice presentation and very nice explanation of different questions.
My
Only
pleasure.
one query is, sir, that people are looking as India as an alternative to China with this after this COVID-19. So I'm getting from different viewpoints from different people, from different experts, and they are saying that India could be a good opportunity. But what is your viewpoint on that? As compared to other Asian countries, why US and other countries, they are looking India as a future prospects and as a replacement for China in case it happens.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ajoy Singh. After a long time, I saw you. How are you?
Yeah. Fine, sir. Fine, sir.
Okay. You know, the first question will come up that why they choose India? Why they think India? The main reason is that population, human resource.
Right. Okay.
No question, human resource. Any kind of business, they like to start from the India. They like to start from China. This is population.
Because we have to look for in-house itself, no? Because internal supply chain, internal resources, internal employment.
Yes.
First of all, we should be self-sufficient. Then only we can go for globally, no?
Yeah, you have. And if you ask me, I would say the human resource cost is cheap. Raw materials cost is cheap. If you compare the USA, why the USA moving to the Apple to the China? The main reason is that raw materials cost. Main reason is that the cost. Okay, now come to the point. What's my opinion? I have some reservation. You know that. Because I every year at least a few times I move to the India due to joining the different conferences. So I know the different state of the India. I know the different places of India, different states, Chennai, how about Uttar Pradesh, how about the Delhi, how about the Calcutta. So I noticed that some of the part of India very, very well equipped to take this kind of decision, this kind of environment, how they'll go. But some of the state, I don't know the state, some of the places, they're still behind of the technological advancement, behind of the like scenario. So maybe it will be difficult in those places. But you know that when we are planning to change this one, if the China moving to the like their business moving to the from China to India, there is one thing is that IT is very strong in India. And all over the world, the IT is dominating by the Indian people. Even there may be the Indian British, there may be Indian US citizen, but these are Indian people. So the origin is India. So, and you know, I always mention one thing is that Indian people, their patriotism is, if you compare the other kind, is better. So, so if this kind happens, this kind of scenario is happening, or it comes to the India, I believe that due to the like their efficient progress in the IT, they can cope up with this one. Maybe it will go move to the automation. Maybe it move to the like different artificial intelligence, and they can handle this one. And another one thing, Indian economical condition, like if you call the living cost low, so they can handle this one that with the cost minimize. So maybe it will be another opportunity that minimize the cost. Usually, you know, all over the world, when you see the China market, we assume that this is a cost minimized market. So maybe the India would create this kind of benching to the people that this is the Indian market, so this is another benchmarking. So this is the China market, or that is the same similar that. And when the India join this kind of scenario, India will not join alone. They will take the like the neighboring country. So it is another opportunity for the Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh, and others country. So that is another, you know, another group of people they will work together. I believe this is the one opportunity, and India should take this opportunity. And I believe that as we are the professional people with the connected supply chain, we have to help the government or the policymakers how can we do this one. If you think that any kind of contribution from us is required, let me know. Let us know. We will work together. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Okay, great.
Dr. Majdi, please.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
But sir, I just want to add one thing.
Rudresh Pandey.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Do you think India is in a position to match China? Just a supplement to what you were discussing.
If you ask me now, I said no. It will take time. It will take time, and because you know that what I said, that there is a condition in the China. They are already set up everything, and what the even Chen earlier mentioned, the relocation is when is a question. It is a take time. So it is another, maybe it will take another 1 to 2 years. But India, they have an opportunity, so they have to take the chance, and they have to take the opportunity for the betterment. And this is not the betterment of India; it's the betterment of this area. And I hope that they have to start this initiative, but it will take time. At least take the 2 to 3 years at least. And you know that in supply chain, you always mention that if you move to the place relocation or the response supply chain to the efficient supply chain, at least it will take the 5 years to onward. So if you start now, that will happen within the 2 to 3 years. You can see the scenario. But we have to take the chance. I would say that not only depend on the government, private sector, they have to come forward, how they'll move forward, and when they'll move forward, automatic government will take the place, government will take the initiative. So let us start in this way to think that this is the opportunity. So don't think that this India, they don't have the ability to do this one. They can cope up. They can adjust, because globally that Indian people, whatever they are leading. The academic side, IT side in the India, if you compare the USA, even the China, I can see the Indian people, Malaysia, the Indian people, they're good, they're doing really good. So that means they can take the leadership, and this is an opportunity for the Indian market. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
My pleasure.
No more
Dr. Majdi, please.
Okay. Then, ladies and gentlemen, the conclusion of today's webinar, which had the title of COVID-19 and the supply chain, and how COVID-19 is introducing challenges and what sort of steps we need to have in order to reshape the future and manage during pandemics. So I guess right now we will need to ask the participants and the rest of the panelists to turn on the videos feature to take a photo together. And can you? Whoever.
Everybody can turn on your camera. We'd like to see you. Please turn on your camera so that we can see, and organizer will take the picture snapshot.
Okay, Dana?
Hello, yes, we're taking the photo now.
Okay.
Professor Abu
AIBPM talks for today. I hope it will benefit all of you here.
Inshallah, it will. And finally, the AIBPM talks with Dr. Mamun Habib has come to an end. It was very exciting, interesting, and stimulating. Thank you, AIBPM, for having me, and thanks to all the panelists and participants that have followed the webinar until the very end. I would love to see you again on the next webinar, which is scheduled to be on July 20th, with keynote speakers Dr. Garima Madhur from Prestige Institute of Management, and Associate Professor Dr. Daisy Key from University Science, Malaysia, and Dr. Ng Salim from Arab Academy of Science, Technology, and Maritime Transport, with the topic of human resources, organization, behavior, leadership, and work-life balance. And again, I am Majdi Quttainah. Thank you from Kuwait. Thank you for your attention, and have a great day ahead of you, or a great night ahead of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.